Hi there. As I vlog today, I am aware that I am sick. I have a fiery pain under my diaphragm, and I have what seems like a rim of steel, a cage of steel around my chest. And I think I have a temperature, and I feel dizzy and distressed. And when I close my eyes, a myriad healing sigils or symbols arise. Of course, the soul cannot harm or be harmed, according to the Mahabharata or the Bhagavad Gita. The soul is impervious to disease. Um, but of course, surrounding the soul, they say, is the body, the soma part of the psyche. And as we know, the soma is assailed by all manner of, from our point of view, negative forces, although the universe doesn't give a flying monkey about these forces. They're neither good nor bad, according to the universe. And, when you consider the four elements, earth, fire, air, water, there are 16 sub-elements, and each of these sub-elements contains, from our point of view, a negative force, which is pulling our body apart, especially as we grow older. And all manner of nasties can assail us over the years. Gandhi said that out of 5 years, if you manage to get 2 years of relative good health, you're doing incredibly well, because the other 3 years will see you sick, in body, mind, or spirit in some form or another. So what are these healing symbols that arise? I mean, setting aside possibility of miraculous recovery, or at least miraculous amelioration of symptoms, which can and does occur on a regular basis, and has done throughout history of man, and in every culture and in every community, religious or otherwise. Um, Given that possibility, it seemed to me, what struck me, that there are far more symbols of healing than there are problems in the world. I don't know. I have no evidence for why this should be so. It just sort of suddenly struck me, because I think, it seems to me that there is more healing to be done on the non-corporeal levels of our existence, what in occult parlance is called the ethereal bodies or the astral bodies or the causal bodies, going right up to the kind of almost touching the spiritual body, vehicles, if you like, for the soul to inhabit. And there are more problems actually taking place on these sort of more etheric levels, astral levels, than there are on the physical. Um, it's almost as if, well, put it this way, the physical level, uh, the problems on the physical level, which may be drastic and terribly painful and horrible, it's nothing compared to what's really going on the etheric level, which seems to be a bit Alice in Wonderland logic, because, I mean, why would etheric pain, let us say, be worse than physical pain? I can't, there are some physical pains out there which you can't imagine anything worse existing, And yet this is sort of the conclusion that came to me. And I'm a bit like that character in Blithe Spirit, actually, the psychic woman, the natural psychic, the strange occult theories seem to come to me in the night, for which there is no apparent evidence or logical consistency attached to them. They just sort of appear to me. It's altogether quite eccentric, really, in many ways. But it seems to me that the physical body is of considerable distraction when it presents itself with the immense difficulties of life. You're supposed to say, well, my soul is not my body, and that's easy to say and easy to think about on the intellectual level, but on the emotional level, which arises out of physical well-being, it's not so apparent. Because when you're writhing around in pain, the last thing you're thinking about is soul, basically. Or if you're facing terminal illness, the last thing you're thinking about is soul or God or angels or whatever. Especially if you've not come from a religious background, which a lot of us haven't. In the West, post-Enlightenment. Even those that think they have come from a religious background still can succumb to doubt, obviously. And where would faith be without doubt? Was another consideration. So when you're in pain or diseased in some way, obviously you're not thinking about soul or God or angels particularly. These things arise out of a sense of comfort and security rather than a sense of insecurity and discomfort. Although perhaps if somebody is well versed in religion and spiritual matters, maybe these times of discomfort and insecurity are just the times when you do think about God and angels and Jesus and other spiritual beings. Um, you know, so I realise that, but I certainly have problems with physical pain and discomfort and insecurity, emotional insecurity. They make me think completely unsoul, in an unsoul-like way, believe you me kind of thing. Having got that confession out of the way, it seems to me that symbols, the healing sigils that arise in my visualization spontaneously, refer perhaps not to soul, neither to soul nor to body, but to the various things that are going on the etheric level. And you might say, well, what's that got to do with anything? It seems to me that there perhaps is a link between soul and all these different occult hidden bodies or unseen bodies. And it could be that, so you've got like the body, and then you've got these occult bodies, and then you've got soul, that are in a strange relationship with each other. And perhaps the key to it is distraction. When pain and discomfort and emotional insecurity, etc., position or overcome your awareness. Your awareness is totally focused on the body and on the emotions. Then you're obviously very distracted by what's going on in the body. But unbeknownst to you, you're actually more distracted by what's going on on the occult levels of your being, because the effect of bodily problems and physical problems and worldly problems, for that matter, is having a detrimental effect on your sort of subtle bodies. And it's these, but your attention is not consciously focused on these etheric bodies that are suffering as a result of physical difficulties. And yet on the subconscious, you're actually more distracted by what's going on the etheric levels than you are by the physical, in fact. Which, as I say, seems Alice in Wonderland thinking, really. Sort of like the converse of what you might naturally think. You think, well, if only I could get to the astral or etheric levels, all these different levels, on more etheric planes than the physical, then I would feel better about what was going on the physical. But I think, in a way, if you had access, conscious access, to what was going on the etheric level as a result of your physical and worldly problems, you would be even more distracted away from soul. So the idea is that these spiritual sigils or symbols or healing sigils, as symbols as one might call them, the idea is to sort out the problems on the etheric occult levels of your being, rather than the physical. I mean, it may be that physical miracles can happen. I'm not saying they can't happen, but I think more is going on an unseen level. You know, so this is where the sigils or symbols of healing are actually active, which I've mentioned before in another video, and that's why it's important. Spiritual healing is on that particular level, because your attention should be focused on soul. But and that's all very well and good. But you will say to me, well, my attention is focused on my pain, emotional pain or physical pain, or existential pain or social pain or whatever. And that's why I'm distracted from soul. But it's actually even sort of worse, in quotation marks, than that, since the source of your distraction is actually on levels of consciousness which are above, in quotation marks, the physical, as it were. So the spiritual healing actually is really concerned with healing on a level completely other than the physical. And so therefore you sort of go into an esoteric level of thinking, and of concern and of focus, which has absolutely nothing to do with the physical. But of course, if somebody came to you and say, "I want spiritual healing," then they're going to want the healing for something that's going wrong physically with them, or emotionally, or socially, or worldly. And you're going to say to them, "Well, I'm not really concerned with your physical well-being." That's kind of neither here nor there almost. What I'm concerned with is the effect of your physical worldly problems on levels of consciousness of which you are mostly unaware. And that's what's of concern to me as a spiritual healer. And my role is to look at those problems rather than the physical problem. And of course, we go into causality here. We go into two-way causality, because is the physical, worldly difficulty causing the problems on the unseen levels, or is it a problem on the unseen levels that's causing the physical manifestation of it? Or is it like sort of a dance between both? Things are going wrong on the physical, and that's affecting the etheric. Things are going wrong on the etheric, and that's affecting the physical. Which is it? Or maybe there isn't a sort of kind of dividing line. Maybe that's a problem of human intellect, to draw a line between etheric and physical. Maybe it's all just one seamless garment, and it really doesn't. But on the other hand, sometimes there could be a seam to it. You could see it either as being a seamless garment, and there's no division between physical, mind, body, and spirit, or you could sort of operate on the basis that there are problems on the etheric which are affecting the physical, in which case you are sort of drawing a line between levels of consciousness, between levels of being, consciously and purposefully. And so basically, the healing sigils arise from time to time. But of course, we cannot but think of everything in terms of physics, in terms of the physical, in terms of the material or worldly. So, we think, oh, this is a sigil or a symbol for doing this physical thing. initiating a physical-based miracle. In fact, it has nothing to do with the physics of the matter or the physical-based problem. It's to do with a problem altogether on a different level. And of course, things like pandemics and outbreaks of bacteriological or viral disease, you could either look at it as well, these things arise from time to time on the physical level. This is life in the lower worlds. This is life in the demiurge. Or you could say, well, perhaps there are problems going on an occult level, on an unseen level, of which we are totally unaware, especially unaware collectively. And some people may be able to see these problems individually, clairvoyantly, as it were, but most of us are completely unaware of battles, if you like, or diseases or attacks going on a different level to the physical. And then, sigils and symbols and magics and formulae and angels and goetic intelligences are either spontaneously arise or are summoned in some way or are invoked or evoked in order to combat what is going on these higher levels. And and of course, you may wake up one day without toothache, and that you say, "Wow, that was a miracle," but really doesn't matter about miracles. In fact, that's not the name of the game, as it were. That's not really what's the miraculous could go on, could occur on the physical level, but it's more likely that the miraculous or the intervention or the intervening of some divine force is happening on a level between the divine level and the physical level, because there are more sort of complications going on between soul level and between physical level that we wot not of, as represented by this crazy drawing which has evolved. And this crazy drawing, which you see before you now, which has evolved from simple elements, could represent the extent of the complications that arise from a simple dysfunction on the physical level. And they're filling the whole of this white space, and this white space is sort of represents the pure individual innocence of soul. And suddenly there's all these complications, and one could sort of say, right, I just want to draw a big line through all these complications using a symbol or sigil. Using I don't know, Reiki or any Reiki energy or any angelic energy. I'm going to just draw a symbol, sort of crossing out the whole of all these doodlings of mine to bring some sort of order, some sort of cohesion to the chaos that has evolved or been created by some entity, which you see before me. So that was just my sort of strange occult theory about, again, looking at spiritual healing and actually what is spiritual healing and what it actually isn't. And whether or not this is of any interest to you, I think it's a theory which possibly addresses the point that, why don't miracles happen more often? Sort of thing. Why can't we live in a universe like Harry Potter or, I don't know, Star Wars and Jedi and stuff? Why can't things just pan out like they do in a script or in a book or in a novel? Why is life inherently more chaotic than it is, when A.J. Rawlings starts to write, or Tolkien, or or any of these people? Why isn't life nice and neat and tidy? Why can't we just sort of wave a magic wand and things happen? Perhaps that's why things don't happen the way we would like them to happen. Things just happen the way they happen. And this is part of life in the demiurge, in fact. And all of this complication is, in fact, what distracts us from the main essential point that we often get distracted from, which is that we are not all this gubbins here. We are soul, the still quiet center in the midst of all this craziness.